This Quran, um, when it was finally presented, um, it was read, it was recited, and it has quite a few features. One of which is its language, Arabic language. Um, the language in which the Quranic message was expressed was the language which was spoken by the people who were there at the time when the Quran was being revealed. The classical Arabic language. And the Arabs were proud of their language. Well, most people are proud of their respective languages. But the kind of pride that Arabs used to take in their language was unprecedented, unparalleled. They would call the non-Arabs as ajam, dumb. You know, obviously it's an exaggeration, but that's a measure of the kind of significance they attached to the depth of the language, the beauty of it. The kind of eloquence you are able to express through this language. And there were many well-known, famous poets who were their celebrities. Each year, one particular poet would get the honor of having his some presentation, poetical presentation, to get the privilege of being hung on the wall of Kaaba. Something that is hung is called muallaq. So, muallaqat are those famous poetical presentations of the famous Arab poets who got this privilege. So, and these people were, as I said, celebrities. People used to look upon them and marvel at the kind of language, the excellence in language they had achieved. And in came this book, as I mentioned in my last presentation, presented by somebody who was, if you look at his character, his honesty, he was above board, impeccable, honest, reliable, trustworthy, fair, and you name it. All great attributes that you can imagine of were what he possessed, but no interest in poetry, in literature. In fact, to the extent that he didn't know how to read or write. So, living in a society where poetry was a passion, he had no interest. I mean, he did not get directly involved. Obviously, he appreciated it, but never was he heard saying anything that was anywhere close to poetry. Uh, and in came a message that he started presenting to the people in the name of God. And he said that this is what God has revealed upon me. And it continued to be presented. The message was opposed tooth and nail by those who did not believe. And they said, how can we accept a message that is criticizing the religion, religious beliefs, the traditions of our society, of our elders? We can't do it. But as far as the language of the Quran was concerned, um, they couldn't say anything against. In fact, the Quran, in a few passages, threw this challenge that, look here, you think it's not from God. I have concocted it. Okay, if that's the case, then bring forth a surah like the Quranic surah, any of the Quranic surahs. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا. And if you are in any doubt about what we have revealed to our servant, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ, then bring forth a surah like any of its surahs. وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and bring forth all your supporters, uh, poets, your orators, except Allah. In fact, even your jinns who used to support soothsayers. In kuntum sadiqin, if you're really truthful in your claim that it's not from God. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا, however, if you are not able to do so, وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا, and you will not be able to do so. My goodness, the strength of this statement, you will not be able to do so. فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ, then fear the fire, وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ, whose fuel is going to be, which will have fuel as humans or stones. They are going to serve as the fuel of that fire. So this challenge was thrown, not once, but on several occasions. And it was not responded to by anyone. You see, what the Quran was saying was that you have a problem with this book. You don't accept it as a book of God, as I'm claiming. I'm presenting you a very simple solution. Just bring one surah like the Quranic surah, and the Quranic claim and presentation would be thrown into confusion. Even if that presentation was poor, was not matching with the Quranic presentation, its beauty, its eloquence, it would still cause confusion in the minds of people. But nobody was able to come with it. Because people knew that, this is not poetry. This is not a human presentation. One of the top poets who had the privilege of his poetry hung on the wall of Kaaba was Labid. He converted to Islam. And Umar radiallahu anhu, who was himself very fond of poetry, he asked Labid later during his caliphate, why did he give up? Why did you give up poetry? Because he gave up poetry. And he is reported to have said, Abad al-Quran, is it possible to say something after the Quran? I can't. After the revelation of the Quran, I've been silenced. I've forgotten. I can't do it. Another statement attributed to him is that, is it possible after Al-Baqarah and Al Imran? I can't do it. So, that was the measure of the influence that the language of the Quran, talking about the language of the Quran, had on its contemporaries. So, later on, when people were to talk about the language, Arabic language, classical Arabic language, the Quran was considered unanimously as the standard. It was a masterpiece of Arabic literature, coming from a man who didn't know how to read or write. So that's one aspect of the Quran. The other aspect, and frankly, let's face it, people might say that, we have got hardly anything to do with it because we don't understand Arabic. How would we understand the beauty of the Quran? With very little understanding of Arabic that I have, I can tell you that if you read Arabic, general common Arabic, and then move on to the Quran, you will all of a sudden find the difference. In fact, you read Hadith and then use the Quran, you'll find that the two are different. All of a sudden, you see the Quranic verses standing out prominently, conspicuous by their brilliance. So that's one aspect. And I've seen a few people converting to Islam simply by reading the Quran and saying, I asked a person, why did he convert? And he said, well, I read the Quran, and it's God speaking. I could see he's speaking. So, I had no choice but to say that, I accept it.